So this was really one of those by Joe Scarborough at Morning Joe. They're talking about January 6th, and got to thank old Uncle Joe, for his honesty in this moment, even though he doesn't realize the implications of what he's saying. Let's play a Morning Joe clip from the other day.
So let's talk also about just the historic impact of a current president's Justice Department prosecuting a president going out of office. I remember a lot of discussions when George W. Bush was leaving office at the end of 2008, early 2009. There are a lot of Democrats, there are a lot of progressives, there are a lot of Obama supporters that wanted George W. Bush prosecuted for war crimes.
Yep.
And Barack Obama wisely said, no, we don't want to get into that. And I say wisely because, of course, Barack Obama 8 years later could have had war crime charges brought against him for his use of drone strikes against American citizens. And I'm just saying, at the end of every presidency, you could go back, cherry pick, and do it. So I've always said, you don't bring charges against the last president. I agree with the Kennedys when it came to Gerald Ford, that pardoning Nixon, moving on, even though it cost Ford the presidency, it was a thing to do. That was just a really long wind-up to say. But in this case...
This is different.
But in this case, we have a president for the first time in American history that is trying to destroy American democracy and is very open about it, that he wants to undo a presidential campaign. If we don't move here, so I guess what I'm saying, this is a hell of a quandary for Merrick Garland, isn't it?
It is, and it's a hell of a moment. I mean, if we can't agree on election results, we're looking at chaos and civil war. And I've covered this before, and people resorting to political violence is a very dangerous thing for the country. So I think it's an option. A prosecution is necessary if he's going to defy election results.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your optimism?
So that's there we go. Now, here's what's so amazing about this clip. It's almost like there is this concession that we are right about everything, like in the way we see the world. You're like, it's almost like for once they'll finally go, yeah, we'll agree on terms here. We'll agree on what happened. We'll agree on the state of reality. But it's a funhouse mirror version of it where, we have to have all of the upside down values.
Both Obama and Bush are war criminals.
Yes. Well, he didn't flat out say that, yes, they are war criminals, but he goes, there was a lot of pressure to charge Bush with war crimes. But then Obama also could have been charged with war crimes, right?
Because Obama's I want to commit some war crimes too. I just became president. You don't think I'm going to go bomb some people?
So he certainly doesn't dispute it, and then gave one example of many of Obama's drone policy, which is the one you're allowed to talk about in the mainstream for whatever reason. You can't talk about like the actual wars and stuff, but you always say drone policy. But so it's so interesting to build this case up, but actually be arguing, that it was wise. Obama wisely didn't prosecute George W. Bush for war crimes because, then he could have been prosecuted for war crimes later. Now, that is quite a way to look at war crimes. It's so funny. Like they have this like moral indignation about everybody else who they judge to be the bad people. But this is how quickly we excuse war crimes. And by the way, of course, you would think any human being with any shred of semblance of like moral decency would it be like, well, no, you'd want him to prosecute George W. Bush for war crimes because they're war crimes. And then he'd be locked into a situation where he probably couldn't commit further war crimes because now the president has been set that you're not above the law and you could be prosecuted for these war crimes.
We got to keep this democracy going so we can commit more war crimes. That's why MSNBC exists. It's the deep state. So like, we can't have anyone undermining the democracy because if they realize it's not a real democracy, we can't go abroad and do war crimes.
Guys, this whole war crime game is over if we don't it's almost like they were going like, now listen, I hate to ever do this, but we got to prosecute a former president. Now this is dangerous. This could someday be used against our precious war crimes. But for now, we're going to have to do it because this is and as they say, you go, well, look, I mean, if we don't agree on elections, this is why they say they have to prosecute Donald Trump, right? Because this one time, even though we don't believe it, even though we believe that the president is above the law, even when that means he's murdering innocent people, he has to be above the law. But this one time has got to be different because he challenged the results of an election. And if we don't all agree with the results of an election, then what do we have? It's like, Jesus, man, how about if we don't all agree that war crimes should be punished? Then what do we have?